Hi, everybody. This is Mike, and today I have Lewis Gill with me. Lewis Gill is the farm manager for Harris Farms. Thank you for coming on, Lewis.
Thank you for having me.
And today we're going to talk about kind of where we're at in harvest. But I think what we'll start with is maybe go back to the beginning, maybe a recap of, bloom weather, what we saw during bloom, and then we'll kind of progress into kind of where we're at today. So, Lewis, if you want to maybe just kind of recap us on kind of what you had seen during bloom and kind of what it all means.
Yeah, I mean, those bloom days are very low bee hours, right? We had a lot of rain. I think we were noticing that we didn't have a good pollination early on. Towards the end of bloom, talking to our bee guy, I know we, they were seeing more pollen in the hives than they originally thought they were going to have. And, but yeah, I mean, early on, bloom didn't look that, the weather wasn't there. And then at one point it looked like, wow, maybe things are going to stick.
Right.
And I believe, I don't know when it was, maybe towards the later part of March, I walk out to an orchard and I really notice like the crop is off. I'm like, wow, this stuff looks terrible.
And just because like the flowers weren't there, or it was just after petal fall?
It was after petal fall, and it was kind of hard to see, just to see the crop.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked off.
Yeah.
So then, we seen that, and I think we came out with a number back then too, right?
Yeah, I think Harris was pretty vocal about a 2.2. At least that was potentially in the cards.
Yeah, and it was kind of hard to say, but and then as you went on, I think like in June, the crop started looking a little bit better. We're like, wow, it looks, or was it May or June?
Yeah,
we thought it looked a little bit better, but then as we started harvesting
it hasn't turned out that way.
No,
right? So really, we had pretty detrimental bloom weather, probably something that people hadn't seen in a long time. I know our bee inspector that we had on here, he was saying he's never seen something like this before. He was expecting the crop to be 40% off or something like that.
Right.
So then we kind of went through bloom. Then we started having estimates come out. First estimate came out at 2.29 billion. Market really responded to that. Then we had the second estimate at 2.35. And I think at some point, maybe that was a little bit higher than maybe the consensus. I think this year it's been hard to have a consensus on this crop size. I think there's been people who have been, 2.5, 2.6 type of believers. And then you have guys who are under 2 billion almost on a total crop size. So I think this year's been very difficult to get a general thought process going on a crop size. So then you saw the subjective estimate, right? That was a phone call survey with the growers at 2.5. I think that shocked most people, really. Even the growers who were part of the phone survey, And then we had the 2.6. Right, market was negatively responded to that one, right? Prices were going down on some items. We probably hit the low of the year, when we saw that come out right before the 23 crop really started kicking off. So then we kind of started moving into bloom, into harvest really, and part of the state started to get significant rain, right?
For sure.
And did we get much here in Madera, kind of Fresno County? Maybe spotty.
It was spotty, yeah, for sure. But some areas got poured on.
Yeah,
it sounded like the South Valley really got poured on a good chunk over there.
Yeah,
but around here, it was weird, just little spots here and there.
And maybe we could talk about the start of harvest or the timing of harvest, right? So when did you guys really start picking up, and how does that, or start shaking, and how does that compare to historical years?
Yeah, so to start shaking, we were probably about 3 weeks late.
Okay.
On shaking. But now as we're winding down, we're not going to be 3 weeks from last year's date off. It'll be maybe like a week for us.
So you started later, but you're going to end probably about the same time you normally would end.
Yeah.
So kind of a condensed.
Right. And then we did start shaking a little early.
Yeah.
Earlier than we should have, just to kind of get the nuts off the tree.
A little scared of rain coming.
Right.
Yeah.
They were, we had a few scares here the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they called them off, but we figured, get what we can on these later varieties and in that heavier ground. Get them picked up and then maybe come back and do a reshake if there's enough left on those trees.
I know the huller had been, kind of raising the signal that, they've been receiving some, high moisture holes, some around 40%, stuff like that. So that will create a problem, right? So, you should, I guess for everybody out there, we probably should take our time if we can. The weather has been pretty good as of late for drying. I think it's going to start cooling off substantially next week.
Yeah.
But
I think we got another couple of days of 90-degree weather, and then now back in the 70s
Yeah.
or 80s.
so
Then the days are short too now. I mean,
Right.
A lot shorter.
the sun's not coming up till 7 almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So drying time is limited. So kind of, again, a delayed harvest, but kind of short, really. So probably indicative of there's not really much out there for you, I would think, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and then, like you were saying, we started off late, but then, we caught up
Yeah.
to our normal
Yeah.
dates. And that, like you're saying, and maybe, machines are traveling faster. You're picking up almonds a lot quicker. And
But you're not working
you're
Sundays
getting-
anymore and things
Well,
like that.
we have for the last,
Okay.
yeah, we've been trying to go
Okay.
just because of the rain.
Ah,
So we've been going for like 5 Sundays straight,
okay.
trying to wrap it up. So, yeah, but I mean, we've been off.
Yeah.
It's
maybe-
kind of weird. Everything's been off. There's just been a little areas that you're up a load, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And maybe we can go into that. I was looking at the Huller's data this morning, right?
Uh-huh.
So these numbers are a field to field comparison versus last year on the same field. This does not include third leaf. This does not include any push outs, right? So this number's, it's a good just historical comparison, but it's not all in, right? So our nonpareil so far is down 19%. Our Monterey's, which we thought were probably the better part of the crop, are down 26% so far. And our Independence, which I think most people thought was also going to be good, is down 4%. All in, I've left out the Butte, Padre, the Wood Colony, some of the other kind of minor varieties, some Fritz, but all in, we're down 20% on a field to field basis. And it's,
At
and
least
it's,
for us,
and
in
what,
my
what you're seeing.
area, yeah.
Yeah. And let's maybe talk about some third leaf, right? I mean, I know you have some third leaf that you've been farming. I mean, what are the yields looking like on third leaf?
I mean, yeah, third leaf seems like it's way off for sure.
Because there
on
was
some of the stuff.
Yeah.
There's a piece that we thought, it's not worth picking up. It's an Independence too.
Yeah. Did you end up picking it up?
No.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think. Yeah. I don't think we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at your second leaf trees too, I mean, we always have enough crop on there to kind of be a pest,
Right.
and you gotta shake them off or pull them off and then grind them. Well, now, I mean, we're still gonna do it, but it's just gonna go a lot faster because you don't
There's
see
not
too
much
many
on there.
nuts on the trees.
Yeah. And are the almonds coming off clean on the trees? Are you seeing stick tights in the tree?
For the most part, they're coming off
Yeah.
clean. I mean, you got areas. It probably depends on your soil type and where you're at.
Yeah.
You do have some areas where they might stick a little.
Yeah. And these numbers that we're talking about on this field to field comparison, that's from our Huller, which pulls pretty much from Madera, Fresno, maybe a little bit of Merced County. We have some ranches up in Oakdale that we're pulling in there too. But that's kind of the central part of the state, really. Maybe technically called the South as per the Almond Board, but it's Fresno, Madera, probably more so Madera County.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but how much do you think is still out there? I mean, are you picking up Monterey and Fritz, and that's about it?
Yeah, that's it for us. And we should finish probably, they say Wednesday of next week.
Okay.
I think, we'll have everything in the barn by then.
Yeah. We could go to our field weights, do a little bit more of an analysis on field weights and kind of get a better picture of kind of where we're at. But at least for our part of the state, we think we're going to probably hold this trend of about down 20%.
Yeah. You think all the nonpareil's in for around at the Huller?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably 99% in. I mean, I'd be surprised if there's still nonpareil out there. I don't think that this information is maybe consistent across the valley. I think, there's probably a better crop in the north to some degree, of which I don't know. There's probably a little bit of a question mark in and around Kern County. I think you're hearing kind of mixed messages out of Kern a little bit. But, Fresno and Madera County kind of sound like they're trending in this direction. Those are significant producers. I think Stanislaus County is also kind of saying the same thing. And I think that this hasn't really made its way kind of into pricing of almonds at the moment. You know, I think if some buyers are probably still talking a 2.4 to 2.5. I think most people are not believers anymore in a 2.6. It's just about kind of how low is the potential. You know, I think there's still some people here in our office who would say, including a higher level of insect damage this year, maybe you could get the net edible crop below 2 billion. I think that's still kind of a little bit of a stretch at the moment, but it's still a possibility, I guess.
I think so.
Then
what about pushouts too? I mean, or orchards that were abandoned?
Yeah.
I think there's quite a few of those out there.
Yeah. And again, the economics today probably are going to be pushing people to be more aggressive on the pushouts at the moment. There are alternatives out there, right? Row crop alternatives and things like that.
Yeah. And what about your turnouts?
Turnouts are down about 3%. We had interviewed some of the Australians a couple months back. They had a very similar 23 crop as we are having. They had poor bloom weather, low turnouts, quality issues associated with all of that. And they had seen a lot of blanks, and I think that as you go through some of these samples at the Huller, you are seeing blanks in there.
And they were down like 30%.
Right? Yeah, it was pretty significant. I mean, very similar to what we're seeing here,
right.
So I don't think it's much different, and any way you kind of cut it. But you got anything else to add to that, Lewis?
No, I guess that's about it. I mean, now we're doing post-harvest, fertility, and the question is, how much do you do, and do you treat the field like you normally would? And I think you got to give them back something.
Yeah,
the trees grew well throughout the year,
right?
Probably from all that moisture. It probably depends on your rootstock too.
I mean, I'm assuming you guys can go in there and mummy shake and do all of that, right? With lessons learned from this year.
For sure.
Right? Where that's probably not the place to be cutting the corner.
Yeah, no, for sure. Sanitation.
Yeah.
Is key.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll keep you guys updated as harvest wraps up. I think, Lewis will be done, Wednesday, sometime next week. I think you give it another 10 days or so, most of it will probably be in, and we'll have a much better idea kind of what this crop is looking like. But that has been Lewis and Mike updating you on the 23 crop progress. Thank you.